Hi there everyone, and yeah, welcome one and all to another video. Another sort of Friday reads, weekend reading, whatever whatever you want to call it. I thought I'd just check in and say what I've been reading this week. It's a very blustery, windy day today. The weather's kind of been up and down this week, but the wind seems to be picking up again, which is sad. But hey, I've got my hat on, nice and warm, so let's get cracking. So it comes as no surprise really if you've seen any of my other sort of Friday reads, weekly kind of videos. The first book I'll mention is The Other Tiger. I've been reading this for as long as this channel's been going, just slowly making through it. It's an anthology of recent Latin American poetry translated into English, and it is really good. I've read a few quite interesting poems in it over the past week or so, and yeah, it's really great. I think every week I say I want to read more of it and spend more time reading it, and yeah, just unfortunately I keep getting distracted by other things, but I'm really enjoying this, and hopefully when it's done I'll maybe try and go into some depth about it, because obviously not many people would really know about it, so maybe I could go in a bit deeper and give you all a bit of a better idea of what it's doing. And then this week I finished reading Nostromo by Conrad. This was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. It was very slow at the beginning, like I said this week, but it is a book that just keeps getting better and better. And even in the last 50 pages or so, it's just getting better and better pretty much with every page. So probably next week I will go into a little more depth with this, sort of like what I did with Bleak House last week. That's Nostromo by Conrad. And then this week I started reading Ulysses by Joyce. This is the first time I've ever attempted to read Ulysses, and I was quite keen to read it this year and to have it read by Bloomsday. I'll see how I do with that. I've got like less than a month now, it seems fine with me. I think it kind of suits my sensibility, my reading sensibility, and my sense of humour too. I'm enjoying this, and I'll probably have more to say about that in the future too. Like last week, I thought I'd just look at one book that I've read recently in a little more depth. So today I'm going to be talking about The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington, and probably right off the bat I'll probably just say that I didn't like this book, and it's a shame that I didn't like it, because it was a book that I was really looking forward to reading, and Leonora Carrington is just a character in history, in art history and literary history that has fascinated me, or at least I found a little interesting. So I was quite keen to read this, and unfortunately it just didn't live up to my expectations. So the book tells the story of Marion Letheby. She's an old lady living with her family, I think somewhere I think it's probably in Mexico, somewhere like that. And yeah, she's living with her family, and she's almost completely deaf. And her family, they don't really want to have anything to do with her. They just kind of want to get on with their life, and have put a roof over her head now that she's old and a little frail, and they kind of get on with their life, and they just kind of make sure she's fed and she gets on with her life. And so the first sort of interesting thing that happens in the book is while Marion is meeting a friend, her friend gives her a present, and that present is a hearing trumpet, a strange antique hearing trumpet just so she can listen in on her family. And that's precisely what she does when she gets home with her new present, is she listens in on her family's conversations behind their back. And yeah, I think that the hearing trumpet itself is a really interesting symbol, a kind of, you know, a symbol of her like empowerment. You know, as a deaf lady, and as an old lady, that, you know, it kind of gives her some dignity, a bit more agency. But still, the first thing that she hears when she uses the hearing trumpet is her family discussing putting her in an old lady's home. And she doesn't really have much choice about it. There's a really great little section when I think her son tells her that she's senile, and she says something like, "Oh, he's probably right, only I don't really know what senile means." And as a character, she's you know, she's really good. She's very cheeky, quite witty, but a little I don't know, maybe a bit naive, a bit gullible. Yeah, and she's definitely a very unreliable narrator. I mean, she tells us all the time that she gets muddled up. You know, she confuses falling asleep with waking up. She confuses memory with the present. And there are some sections near the beginning where I guess you can only describe them as visions or as phantasmagoria. And they're really interesting sections, because they, in a way, they're kind of, you know, they're in her head, and it's, in a way, at least the way I read it, it is, you know, kind of getting you to maybe understand what it's like to be her, and how confused she may be, and you know, as her memory is going, how things from her childhood and when she's younger are kind of coming back, and they feel like they're in the present. And I felt that if those elements had have been built on and developed and even just continued through the rest of the book, then it would have been a really great, really interesting book. But as soon as Marion is dropped off at the old lady's home at this institution, suddenly, I don't know, she becomes she isn't really a character anymore. I mean, she is our main character still, and you know, she's still talking about her family and her friends and how she misses them, but she becomes much more cardboard as soon as she gets there. And all these things that made her more interesting, and things that, you know, are giving us her experience of what it's like to be in her head, seeing the world through her eyes, all that goes away in this institution. And again, the story, it takes on much more of a surreal edge, which doesn't really suit the writing style at all. So when I first opened up the book, I thought I'd really enjoy it, because it had this really bouncy, dotty, energetic kind of writing style that sort of reminded me of people like Dodie Smith, who wrote I Captured the Castle and 101 Dalmatians. And I thought, okay, it's going to be, I mean, I knew it was going to be a little surreal, a little odd, because I've seen her artwork and I kind of know her reputation a bit. So I knew it was going to be surreal and strange, but, you know, I thought, okay, great, it's a story about, you know, an old woman going to you know, a retirement home, and maybe some of the mischief she gets up to. And I heard she's going to be staging maybe some kind of revolution in the old lady's home. I thought, great, you know, if she keeps it up like that, then it'll be a really good book. But as soon as we turn up at the at this old lady's home, suddenly everything that happens just feels a little frivolous. It just feels like it's put there just to be there. There's no real rhyme or reason to what happens, and there are strange deviations that don't really signify anything, and there's nothing coming before them to tell them to tell us that it's going to be coming up, or even to back it up. And so the result is kind of like, it's almost like a kid's story. You know, and you know, it's like someone saying, this happened, and this happened, and this has happened, but by the way, also this was happening, and it's just messy, to be honest. The only way I can think of describing it maybe is Roald Dahl trying to write Finnegan's Wake, and I mean, Roald Dahl is great, Finnegan's Wake is great, but you know, it just doesn't compute. So all this strange, surreal stuff is supposed to be happening in the dining room of the old lady's home. There's a painting of a winking nun, and we eventually get to hear the history of this nun in a way that's sort of reminiscent of you know, sort of 18th and 19th century Gothic novels. Something like The Monk by Matthew Lewis, or Anne Radcliffe, you know, an Anne Radcliffe novel. That kind of story within a story kind of thing that you get a lot with Gothic literature. And I think she's trying to do that in this. So we get the story of the nun, and it's a nun who kind of works her way up and becomes an abbess, and then when she realises that she's in this sort of seat of power and she's kind of secluded from the world, I mean, she basically becomes a witch. She's reading all these weird arcane books, and yeah, just getting up to this kind of all just mischief, really. And it just seems like it's weird for the sake of being weird, and somehow the nun connects to all these weird things that are happening, and although you could maybe link the weird things that happen to some really interesting points, like female empowerment, like the environment, like nuclear war, or the way we treat animals and vegetarianism and things like that, unfortunately, again, she just doesn't back any of it up. Everything's just kind of thrown in and just cobbled together, and things just seem to be happening for the sake of it. And the writing style is kind of still just a really dotty, silly writing style at the beginning, but suddenly there are all these strange, like, angels, sphinxes coming out of towers and things like that, and so yeah, it's just strange, really. Just to give you an idea of how weird it is, I'll see if I can find one of the illustrations. I think she did her own illustrations for this book. So this is the weird sphinx seraph creature that comes out of the tower, for no apparent reason, really, except for the fact that suddenly you're told out of the blue that it's been trapped in there for pretty much forever. And there's something about some kind of sort of female sky goddess that's decided to leave the universe because of the way humans are treating the planet or something, and then, you know, they're trying to summon her back. And yeah, unfortunately it's just a bit of a mess. And that's a real shame, because I was really looking forward to reading the book, and yeah, it just didn't live up to that expectation. Yeah, if you've read The Hearing Trumpet, yeah, please let me know what you thought of it. Maybe I was missing something. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings, so it's quite, you know, it's quite a quick, easy read. And it's, you know, definitely a roller coaster. Definitely, you definitely won't forget it. It's not forgettable. But unfortunately, I wasn't that impressed. But yeah, and as well, if you've read something else by her, she wrote a memoir about her time in a mental institution called Down Below. And I'd be interested in reading that. So again, if you've read that, or short stories or something like that, yeah, let me know what you thought of them. But yeah, I think that's that for Leonora Carrington. I think, yeah, unfortunately she's a much better surrealist painter. I'll try and link some of her paintings down below. Yeah, that's that for this week. So yeah, I hope you all have a really good weekend. I'll probably see you all soon. There'll probably be another weekly poem at some point this weekend. But yeah, that's all for now. Yeah, so keep safe, and yeah, ciao for now.